Morning.
Huh. I checked on the phone to make sure Zoom was up at
Right.
3 minutes to, and between 3 minutes to and 10 o'clock, it decided to connect itself.
Nice.
Yeah. Usually Zoom will stay up for a long time, but every now and then it'll drop off. So
Yeah.
so by the way, like the other day, if you need to get a hold of me, sometimes the internet is down or whatever. You can just call me. It's the number. That's the Zoom number. That's
Okay.
link. That's my phone number. So yeah. Feel
Good
free.
to know.
Feel free. How you doing, Erica? You look very different today.
Oh, well. Yeah.
Wow.
Doing the same?
You almost look like a different person.
Wow. Well, I don't know.
Yeah. Wow. And it's not the hair, the face. Actually, your face looks different. Eyes look different. They seem a little kind of wider, and then the mouth also. Yeah.
I don't know.
Wow. Fascinating. Maybe just the lighting, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. How are you feeling, Erica? How are you
I'm
feeling?
good. I'm good. How are
Good.
you?
Good. Yeah, I was feeling the power this morning.
Feeling the power. I like it.
Yeah, feeling the power. It's that little Biella story, right? Where she says,
Right.
"Are you feeling the power?" You remember the story?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just connecting to the world. It's peculiar again because I get this every now and then. I didn't sleep long, but again, I dreamt fairly well. Even though I woke up during the night and all that, but still. So I woke up feeling pretty energized and feeling the power, just enjoying the world. Also, it was
Good.
cold last night, so it's the start. Even though we're in the desert and it's warm over here, it was cool last night, so that was nice. The start
Good.
of fall for sure now, right? Yeah. So yeah, I like the cold. I winter's my favorite. So
Oh, I'm the exact opposite.
I can regulate. I can regulate the cold. I can't regulate the heat so well.
Yeah, I'm the exact opposite. I regulate heat very well, not cold at all.
And it's interesting, over the last couple of years or so, my legs and feet have gone cold.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. It still doesn't matter though. I have their own time, temperature, heat zone. They're in a different reality.
Right.
I think I'm sort of stuck in between the two in the crossover somewhere.
That's
Very
yeah.
strange. Just a bit of housekeeping. The poetry, the daily one, bit of a bust. I'm waiting for the weekend to see, because apparently they send the classic poems on the weekend.
Okay. I signed up, but I haven't seen the emails.
Oh,
I
immediately.
very rarely check my email, so
Oh, that should be there. That came immediately.
they get kind of lost in the melee, I think.
Well, I just sort of assumed that
Oh
they
yeah,
would.
here's one. 5:10 a.m.
Well, read it real quick. See what you think before I say more.
In the after. Is this supposed to be formatted this way? Boy, this is weird. I don't know if it's just because of That's like I can't even tell how it's supposed to be read.
Yeah.
That's odd.
Well, that's right. It's enough. So I agree. Most of the poems that I've seen so far, all of them actually, the formatting was terrible.
Yeah,
Right?
that's really odd.
I mean, whoever is editing for them doesn't have a clue. I'm sorry. Who than themselves.
In the After by Tanya M. Foster. In the After.
You can't read it the way they've got it formatted. It's really weird.
Really? In the
I
After.
mean, you can, but it kills the poem.
M. Foster. What in the world? Well, their search works real well too, I can tell. Tanya M. Foster.
They apparently send, current new poets or poets they're promoting, I guess. That would be more accurate. In the week, and then on the weekends, you get classical poems. So I'm looking forward to that. I couldn't find not one email list that sent classical poems.
Wow. Yeah, this is how they format it on the website. Yeah, I haven't looked to see.
So the poems
classical
that I
poems.
did see, well, some of them were translations.
Mm.
Like, seriously, I really have no interest in an English subscription to poetry and to listen to translated poems. Poems is one of the few things that really don't work in translation.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, some prose doesn't even translate nicely. It can, because there's a different thing to, you got more leeway with prose, but poetry, no.
Right.
Now, with the formatting, it might be that they're using a voice to text,
Yeah.
because did this one have an audio clip involved, a reading of it?
It has an audio button. I don't know whether it's
Yeah,
actually
it's probably that then. Yeah, because most of them I saw had the audio reading, which, all right.
Well, this one, the way this is formatted, I can't imagine that this is what the poet.
Right.
It's just the way it's formatted, it's broken up in this really unusual way that makes it hard to even tell
Yeah.
like where it's supposed to be going.
I do not exclude the poet from this because of the nature of the poems that I've seen. I'll explain in a moment.
By the way, this is a random aside, but before I forget, I went in to try to do some more of the Feeling and Believing course, and I could not get the website for a new university to load. I don't know if you've seen that issue.
I haven't been there today. I was there a day or two ago and it was fine. So could you check again today?
Yeah,
Sometimes they do updates and it doesn't work.
Something went wrong. Oh, certificate problem is what it's saying now. Certificate has expired.
Yeah, so that's typically a temporary thing. So, okay, I'll let them know. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Earlier it was saying that it just could like page not found.
Yeah.
But now it's doing certificate
all right.
error.
So I have an alternative for you. Hold on one second. I just felt that the poems that I did get, and I'm really not a fan of some of the modern poetry because it's too pretentious for my liking.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, way too pretentious. The people aren't, they're looking to create, this pretension really. And the intent inherent in writing the poetry and creating the poetry is all a miss. It misses the idea of poetry as far as I'm concerned.
Mm.
Okay, it's modern, it's poetry, but still, I mean, you can do your modern stuff, but you don't have to let go of the poetry aspect. It's showing off, really. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah, it's the poems are like, oh, look at this, because it's new, it's different, it's clever. And it's like, John Cage in music.
Mm.
Yeah. The same thing in classical music, right? John Cage came along and he did all this weird and wonderful stuff, and people, oh, wonderful, And it was just, it's new for the sake of novelty and difference, and modern
Right.
it's supposed to be. But, if you lose the beauty, what's the point?
Yeah.
You lose the joy. Right. So you lose the artistry. You get this kind of cleverness, and it's the cleverness comes from just sort of being different and alternative and showing off and all this. And I don't know,
Mhm.
I'm not a great fan of it. It's like dancing. You know, some of the dancing, yes, I appreciate your skills, but you know, the hyper choreographed flow of your moves. You are just showing a collection of moves which you think is cool. It has nothing to do with the music or, you know, to me, what dance is, you know,
Mhm.
an interpretation of feeling of joy. You just simply, I've got a cool move. Okay, some of them are cool, but you've shifted into a different objective, you know, it's a different thing, you know. It's a move sequence rather than a dance, if you ask me. But all
Right.
right, it's just me, maybe, you know. And it's not that I'm like a fuddy duddy and against new stuff. I love new stuff, but it's just the intent, you know. When you look at the intent behind it, it changes. At any rate, what we're going to do? Oh, I want to give you an alternative. Hold on. You know, that way you can go to where I make them, because the site, it's supposed to be a lifetime free site, but I don't know if it's going to last or not. We'll see. They're shifting over and changing stuff and, you know, doing all sorts of stuff, trying to survive, I guess. So I don't know. I don't know if they are or not. But you can go to slides.com
Okay.
slash a new you. You know, just a new with the U at the end.
Yeah.
And then let's see. I'm gonna just give you the login and the password. Yeah. Let's see.
Whoops. Slides.com.
All right. So Sil and Olivia at nobilia.org.
Sil. Okay, like spelled out. Sil and not
Yeah. Sil and Olivia. Yes. ELEVIA.
at. What'd you say?
Nobilia.org.
Okay.
And then the password is Sedona1. So log in and see if just to make sure.
Okay.
You're logging into a new you. I think that's the way they have it set up. And I know we both can log in at the same time.
Okay, Sil and Olivia at nobilia.org. This is logging into slides.com.
Yes.
Or there's
Yeah.
a separate.
Yeah. Slides.com slash a new you.
Well, okay, I don't.
All right. It might not be. It might just be at slides.com and the login automatically takes you there. I don't know. I haven't logged in for a long time.
So when I go to slides.com/a new you, it has, without having to log in, it has Wave Impeccability webinar.
Yeah, those are just free things that anybody can access.
Oh,
So,
here. Okay, wait, no.
yeah. Somewhere there should be a login there somewhere.
Okay, no, that's something different. Well, okay, let me try just doing regular slides.com.
I know. Maybe the slash a new you did throw it out. Maybe you just got to go directly there. Then, yeah. Now that I think of it, because that will take you to the publicly available stuff like the webinar. Yeah. What else did I have publicly available? You said the webinar and something else?
No, I think that was it.
Oh, all right. Yeah, it should only be that, if I remember correctly. So just on slides.com.
Okay, it's giving me an invalid email or password. I have Sil.
Oh, okay. So how did you spell Syl? SYL, obviously, right? And then
Yes.
AND
Yep.
and ELEVIA.
Yep. At nobilia.org, right?
Huh.
And so is Sedona capitalized?
Yes, capital
Okay.
Sedona, yeah. And then Sedona 1, the numeral 1. Yeah.
That would be why.
Sorry, I forgot to say Sedona.
No worries.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. All right. I am in.
All right, brilliant, brilliant. Okay, so when you're there now, you just go to I don't know, maybe you're on your computer.
Yep.
Yeah, probably screen share is the easiest, or I can let me screen share actually.
Okay.
That'll probably be even easier. Hold on, I got so many tabs open today. Well, every day I got like 20 tabs open. I like to know where I'm at. I work on stuff like this.
Right.
I don't always want to. So I like having it there, and it reminds me of the stuff. So it's pretty cool. I really enjoy all my open tabs. Sometimes it makes them hard to find. Well, when my mouse is a little slow, sometimes too. It's a wireless mouse, so sometimes things get in the way. Can be a tad tardy. And then this thing with Windows popping up that it fascinates me. Some setting in Windows that has it bring Windows to the fore. I guess when you move your mouse or something, it's the most annoying
Right.
thing. I don't know where to turn it off either. Anyway, all right. So I don't want to be here. This is now in the thing already. So you seeing something similar to this, or you saw, right? Well, it's still loading, right? Yeah, okay. So you've got all the decks on the side and you choose whatever the deck is. I mean, you can go by the abbreviation. So, FAB is obviously feeling and believing. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's it. And that's just to navigate. So when you're in it and you choose the module, let's see. I think you can go, if you go to edit, and you can obviously edit, but I think if you just want to like view them, yeah, you click on this, whatever it said there, I forget now. Open deck, and then you go to view, I guess. Yeah, or present. You can fiddle around with it and see, but it's just a different way of accessing the things. Now,
Awesome.
with slides, I mean, if need be, they set it up. Actually, they don't have a private access, but you can make all the things public, which is kind of cool. Yeah. Yeah. So, but of course, I don't want to have it public, but still, I mean, you have the access here if you get stuck on the other ones. So,
Right.
wow, look how pretty this looks. Wow.
It does.
Wow. Nice. Wow. Wow. This presentation is very nice here because you see the background a bit fuller. You don't necessarily see this elsewhere. So,
I like it.
wow. 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 Oh yeah. Here's the story, but no, it's a similar story. Maybe it gets into this. Anyway, yeah. I think this is it. Are you feeling the power? I think, Yeah. All right. So, just in case the other one, I will message them. They've been very tardy on their message on their.
Yeah.
So, I hope it doesn't collapse because, like I said, I have lifetime access, but I think they may not be able to manage that. So I hope not, because that means I'll have to migrate everything.
Right.
But I have it all here, which is not a big deal. I mean, everything there is simply an embedded for this, an embedded code for this. So yeah, it's kind of nice and handy and all that, but I could set it up on my website if I really had to.
Right.
It would take a lot of work because there's a lot of modules, sessions, individual links. So as you can see here, so very cool. All right, brilliant. So I just like that you have the alternative. It's very important that you have access.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah. And then also, let me go back there. This is something you might want to do. This is not something I would, I haven't. I've never made this available to anybody else, but I'll make it available for you.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, you're special. Yeah, it's very special. No, I never used this, so now I don't know how to get out of this.
Oh.
Well, let me go to edit. I know where to go from edit.
Nice.
So, yeah.
I like your background today, by the way.
Oh yeah, thank you. Very cool. Yeah. Yeah.
Looks like a
So,
sun's.
you know, I'm just going through it's called my Bialis series file. That's all stuff I used directly in those stories. But when I get to the end of this, I'll switch to other folders.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I've got some wild and wonderful folders with some fantastic stuff in it. So,
I like it.
yeah. You know, I've got so many photos. I want to use them, you know, so it's cool. Okay. So from here, you know, I go out and, no. It's in there. It's in there. Okay. So let me go. Oh, I was in feeling and believing. All right. So if I go here, because now, you know, they call them decks, right?
Right.
And but now they don't have a name for the main category. So, you know, this is a deck. Each what we would call a session is a deck, you know, and then the modules obviously are the ones that are the titles here. Let's see. Copy. All right. So if I go into edit on the session, and I go here to, where was it now? I know it's here somewhere. Here we go. Export, and then go to export PDF, and then you just download it as a PDF. It's very important to do it as a PDF, right? You can do it as PowerPoint, but it loses stuff. It's a flattened version of your deck. So the PDF gives you pretty much, you know, in a file that you can scroll and read through it. I don't know if it saves the audio or not. I don't remember. But still, you know, if you ever wanted to save this and have it as something you can read off, you know, without having online, for whatever reason, I don't know. Like I said, it's not something I make available to anybody. I don't know why the idea struck me there, but since we are looking at sort of alternative options here,
Right.
there you go. You know, or you may, you know, like, I've got them printed out. Some people like printed stuff. I don't think that's something that's important to you, but for some, it's very important to print it. You know that we did print out the books, and for some, this is a huge deal.
Yeah.
Actually, do it from the printed books. They don't go on at all. So I only have it for way of impeccability, but you know, this way you can get access to your stuff. Again, I don't know if that PDF. Hold on, let me see. I have some downloaded. It's one of my projects that I got to do is finish downloading the files for these. You know, I started doing this because it wasn't something that I don't know if it was available right from the beginning. They had a couple of updates, but let's see where I want to be. If it has the audio in it, that'd be very cool. I tried to be organized. See, also files, because the A puts it up at the top there, right?
Right. I like it.
Instead of just saw files. Yeah. It's less scrolling, you see, because otherwise I'd have to scroll. I try and avoid all that stuff. I wish programmers would take cognizance of, you know, distance your cursor moves.
Right.
To me, the click's the most precious thing. All right, so under courses. Okay, here we go. And I think I have the default already set up. You see, it says 5% there. But I think that is, it defaults to that. But if you know, you can play around with that. If not, let's see. Sure, I clicked on there. Where to go? Oh. It's just taking a little while. Yeah, so there's no audio then, yeah. Oh, maybe. It's no, that just shows it the link at the bottom, but no, it doesn't do the audio. Yeah, so there's no audio. Okay. But that's not the end of the world, you know, at least the information's there.
Right.
Yeah. So I wasn't expecting there to be audio, although I suppose the PDF could have it in technically, right?
That's a good question. I
believe so. I believe so. Yeah. Well, I know you can put it in other formats. So
right.
yeah. I haven't looked at this for a while. It's pretty as well.
It is.
This is the gift of that.
Yeah, I love that
Yeah, yeah.
module.
You know, and that it's really interesting now, just to bring it up real quick here, you know, I really feel that, you know, I was just thinking about this. I don't know what, it's one of those random thoughts that come across my brain for whatever reason, just about this stoning of for adultery. And I'm like, well, it was, it was connected to the story and TV and whatever, you know, basically just kind of standing up, I guess, you know. And I sort of, you know, like the little scene again, you know, one day outside the outpost. Well, okay, you know, one day in Afghanistan or someplace like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you there where they want to stone this woman, you know.
Right.
And so the little scene ran through my head. You know, you stand up and say, you know, where did you get this idea from? Just because
Mm-hmm.
it says so in the Quran. Have you not realized by now yet? And I'm making a little speech in my head to
Right.
say, have you not realized yet that what's in the Quran is there for you to choose from? You know, that Allah set it up for you to choose. You don't get this. You don't understand it. And I'm like sort of amazed that they don't get it. That some of the things in the Quran are there to actually test you and give you the choice to be foolish or not.
Right.
You know, and like really scold them for their foolishness of not understanding the Quran.
Mm-hmm.
To shift it now, not to say stop stoning the woman, right? Because
Right.
now you get into a debate about her guilt and all of this stuff, right? No, but it's that. So you're going to indirectly achieve that, right?
Right.
To say, look, you know, you can't be doing evil things just because it says so in the Quran. That's
Well,
why it's in there. It's for you to be tested, you
I
know.
was actually just thinking about that the other day. I don't remember why. I don't remember why I was even thinking about this, but somehow I got started thinking about the story of Abraham
Yeah,
and, God telling Abraham to
yeah,
go up,
exactly,
and like kill Isaac to prove that he loves him.
exactly,
And,
exactly.
I mean, obviously in the story, God stops him from doing this and whatever, but I'm like, this is a perfect example of something in the Bible that, like, do
Yeah,
you really think
yeah,
that God, I mean, if you believe in this particular God,
yeah.
first of all, is that a God that you want to believe in?
Exactly,
You want to
exactly.
believe in a God that says in order to prove that you love me, you have to kill your child? Like, is that
Exactly.
really a God you want
Ex-
to believe in? And,
exactly.
then second of
Exactly.
all, just because that story is in there does not mean that this is something we need to take literally
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
okay, I guess in order to prove that I'm faithful, I'm going to go sacrifice my children. Like, no, it
You know,
just
maybe I should.
blows my
Oh,
mind.
sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's one of those things that blows my mind about people
It is. It's astonishing. Unless you come
taking.
to Saul's Bible reading class.
I like it.
Right? In Saul's Sunday school, we read the story and say, oh, poor Abraham, he failed the test completely, utterly. He missed the whole point, right? First of all, he didn't understand inappropriate application of goodness.
Right, right.
Right? Secondly, he didn't understand that blind obedience is just stupidity. And it is the
Mm-hmm.
worst thing that you could possibly do. And thirdly, he didn't understand appropriate disobedience.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah,
So this was what God was trying to get him to, that level of awareness where
right,
he would turn around, because if God said it to any of you, you would say, sorry, excuse me, sir, but no.
right.
With all due
Right.
respect, no.
Yeah,
Yeah, I cannot do this in my good conscience, even
right.
if you ask it. Even if you ask it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. I mean, yes, you may tell me, okay, look, there's some good reason for it that I don't see, and I have to trust you. That would be different. But
Right.
just to do it to show that I'm faithful and obedient, no, right? Okay, maybe there's some reason that it's going to save the world. You know, the blood will spill into the earth. It's magical blood. Or I don't know. All right, if you tell me this, maybe I'll believe that. Maybe, but it's still belief. Yeah.
Right.
So
Right.
I'm sorry. If you're so powerful and knowledgeable and all this stuff, find other ways to do your stuff rather than work on things that require belief.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you can surpass that. I mean, surely if there's one way to do this, again, if you needed him killed, you just kill him yourself.
Right.
No, I don't have to do it. So, there's all sorts of flaws and holes in the theory, right? So, But I think, the key element here is to understand inappropriate application of goodness, particularly in the context of obedience.
Right.
To when we understand that, blind obedience is absolutely inappropriate application.
Yes.
And it makes you vulnerable and open to manipulation. And
Right.
it is a doorway to evil.
Right.
Blind obedience is a doorway to evil.
I agree.
Whoever's telling you to be blindly obedient has got only their agendas of manipulation in mind.
Yeah.
Anybody who's got any, sorry.
That's a total BMN
exactly
logic thing.
It's BMN culture, right? It's the bulk of our culture. Hello, Elmo.
Sorry, I just dropped.
It's all good. It's all good.
No, it's gone forever. I lost my rubber band, and so now I have to go get some new ones. Oh dear, these little things just run away.
It's those mini black holes from the scientists that have gone rogue. Yeah, and they just appear randomly and swallow stuff. Yeah.
Oh dear. But yeah, I am kind of constantly amazed at stories in the Old Testament, especially of like, to me, it's like BMN God,
Absolutely.
Old Testament God is so different from New Testament God, and Old Testament God, so many of the stories are just like total BMN.
Absolutely, which is why the New Testament comes along, because the old stuff stops working, especially after Job. Again, it's the same story. Okay, like Abraham, he didn't really suffer much. He was a bit of mental anguish, but at the end of the day, okay, he felt good about himself because God took him to the brink and tested him. God, you could say, yeah, but God knew that he could stop it at any time. He wasn't going to actually let it go through. But in Abraham's mind, this was so. It's a psychological test, made him strong. Blah blah blah. You could justify it. But poor old Job, no, things just sucked for him, and then he says, but why? And then the answer is because I'm God.
Right.
Now, if that's not your quintessential BMN answer,
right.
And then if you look at the books after that, I think I mentioned this before, it's all, woe be unto you, you be a stiff-necked person, and all the prophets are prophesying that, all of the chosen, the faithful, the unfaithful are all going to, come to grief because they just aren't paying any attention. They just abandon religion, in other words.
Right.
And rightly so. Because there's no point to being good if the bad guys are going to get the same, get all the rewards. This is absolutely no point to it. This is no logic. So, of course, then Jesus comes along and introduces the concept of heaven, and, well, it all changes now. So, but again, if you say this is part of the old BMN logic, well, you got to find something to make it work, And you're finding some magical thing that nobody knows for sure works, but hey, you push it and
right.
If you're, to me, it's really a good test of your belief systems. If you substitute something else in your core of your belief, in this case, God, you substitute fairy queen or random, and most posts about God and religion, they make as much sense. I've actually got one guy in the group, Willie Johnson. He doesn't always bring God into it, but sometimes, right? I mean, he actually makes really nice posts, except he has to bring his little bit of God into it. So I kick him out all the time, say, please, Willie, just leave the God part out, right? He keeps trying. So I actually, a couple of days back, we had one which was very much about God. And normally it's about the point, and he says, well, this is part of, God and all. He just makes it as a sort of an addendum. But this one was just around that. So I said, please, you make good posts, but, where's the value of it if it makes as much sense when you put in fairy queen or random for God, and it still makes the same amount of sense. And it's fascinating, though. I mean, and I don't mean to be harsh, because I suspect that, I don't say this to many people, especially those who do use God, because I suspect somebody's going to read that and say, oh, fuck, and really crash. They will have a worldview collapse as a result, because they're going to realize that, what, this is actually true. There is absolutely no difference to it. So I'm putting all this energy into it. And again, they don't have the sophistication of Wave Impeccable. He says, hey, it doesn't matter. You can believe in something that has no absolute basis, because it gives you valid, you get the validity out of it, a usefulness and a value. But you have to know that it isn't based on something real,
Yeah.
that it is something that you've created. I mean, I can believe in whatever. It doesn't matter. For me, I believe in everything, actually.
Well, and I mean, I guess one of my biggest troubles with including religious things in, especially in big groups like that, is
Yeah.
religion. People's religious beliefs are that's such a controversial topic because it's so near and dear to people's hearts, and it's something that so few really religious people can accept, that there are other people who feel differently and that that's okay. But when you
Right.
include that kind of thing, it
Yeah.
alienates anyone else who doesn't believe what you do. And it
Exactly.
can turn people off from the overall message, because if all
Exactly.
they're seeing is the religious part and they're like, well, I don't believe that, then they don't listen to any of the rest of it. So just leave it
Exactly.
out. If you want to
Exactly.
believe that, that's
Exactly.
great. Good for you.
Exactly.
But don't, when you put something in there like that, it creates, for me, that just creates a host of problems that are totally unnecessary.
Exactly. And also, I have the rules in the group. If somebody bothers to go and read them and look at them, one
Right.
of the rules is no preaching.
Mm,
Because I'm not against religion, I'm against preaching.
right.
Because it's actually, at some point I probably or have a guideline for making posts. Share, don't tell. That would be rule number
Mhm.
one. Right. So it devalues when you're preaching, even if you don't use any religious context. If you just preach whatever you're preaching, you could be preaching about, crystals or the tarot card or whatever,
Right. Right.
or just preaching about patience. You could preach, which
Hmm.
is, it's the preaching that is the bothersome here. But also you are your post, whatever your point is. Okay, you're talking about patience, but now you bring God into it. Patience is only valuable because God says it so.
Right.
And
Right.
that doesn't work, because patience is only valuable because the fairy queen said so.
Right.
Hmm. Or because random. It just,
Right.
it, that's it. It's a poor reason to justify your points. It's lazy, in other words.
Mm.
And that's why people do use it, because it gives authority to whatever they say. And
Right.
it gives authority to them. And it not only gives authority to what they're saying, but it gives them that connectivity of specialness and
Hmm.
righteousness. So I'm sorry, but how much of this God stuff are you saying because it elevates you and gives you some sort of superiority?
Right. Right.
And actually, while we're on the topic of this, a good discernment point, it's the abortion.
Hmm.
Most of people who subscribe to abortion, it's for the same reason. You can, if you look at all their policies, they don't really care about life and
No.
humanity. So that's not the reason. But abortion is a quick and easy, guaranteed way to say, look at me, I'm a good, caring person.
Right. Right.
That's it. That's the reason for the support of it.
Right.
Most of them have no clue what's going on. I mean, like Ryan, sadly,
Mm.
he really thinks that, yes, they take the baby out of the womb. An actual baby gets pulled out of the womb
Yeah.
and murdered. This is it's so childishly, idiotically
Right.
stupid. It's like,
Right.
seriously, dude, the thing that comes out is the size of your pinky thumbnail, like the size of a dime. It's a
Right.
fertilized egg, right? That's what they take out. It's, come on, yeah.
Well, and I mean, I've said this many times to my mom, who I think is so funny. I think my mom is kind of still on the fence of how she feels about all of this stuff. But I have said numerous times, a lot of what I see in abortion, not so much anymore. Now it's become so polarized that anybody who's anti-abortion, like, they don't care what point in the process this is happening. But a couple years ago, the big topic was late term abortion, right? And that was like, all
Exactly.
the
That's a whole
anti-abortion
different
people
deal.
were like,
Exactly.
ugh. And I kept saying to my mom, look, if you read any kind of testimonial from people who have actually gone through late term abortion,
Yeah.
99.9% of the people that go through this is not because they wanted an abortion.
Exactly.
Late
Exactly.
term abortions
Right.
only
Right.
happen because something has gone terribly wrong, and either
Absolutely.
the life of the
Absolutely.
child, the life of the mother, or both
Exactly.
are at risk. These
Exactly.
are people who
Exactly.
desperately wanted these children. And this was
Exactly.
a horrific,
Yes.
awful, tragic
Yes.
scenario.
Yes.
But it
Yes.
is necessary
Right.
because it's necessary to save the life of the mother in most of these
Or the
cases,
child, right? Or
or
one
the
or the
child.
other.
And
Right.
and
Right.
like the fact that people are just and like out here protesting and calling these women
Yeah.
murderers.
Yeah. It's
No, if you would
exactly.
take 2 seconds to look at what is
Yeah.
actually
Yes.
happening in these
Yeah.
scenarios,
Yes. Yes.
but most people who are anti-abortion think that these are women who at 38 weeks are like, you know what, I don't want this kid anymore, like rip it
Yeah.
out. No,
Yeah.
that is not what's happening. That is
Right.
not.
I don't actually know of any cases that I've ever heard of where that is the case.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
I mean, typically once women get into the, even if they wanted it and couldn't get it, they change their minds and then really want it after being pregnant for a while, even
Right.
though they still have the hardship and the drama and the stress and all that, So actually, the late-term abortions didn't come about because of women wanting abortions. It had nothing to do with the woman. It
Right.
was the doctor's call. It was simply a
Right.
medical procedure, and in the overwhelming majority of the cases, it was you needed to abort the baby or the fetus to save one, right? You
Mhm.
couldn't save often if it's the baby or the mother, then they will choose the baby, right?
Right. Right.
Depending, if the mother can have again, then okay, they choose the mother, right? But in almost all of these cases, it was they both will die or save the mother.
Right. Right.
Because otherwise it's just an early cesarean, right? Which is,
Right.
that happens all the time. There's a problem and a complication. They just take the baby out early and they put them into the,
Right.
even back in way back days, cesarean's not a new thing, they would, okay, it wasn't the most ideal thing before anesthetic and antiseptics and stuff. But still, I mean, that's been known to happen.
Right.
But so you can save, that saves them both if there's the complication, or, sometimes, of course, the mothers die from that cesarean, in the old days especially, and they save the baby. But still, this is when it's not possible to do that. So this
Right.
is like a medical emergency, and it's not very common. So, but
Right.
yeah, ignorance is astounding. But of course, like I said, the agenda, and why I'm mentioning this, because I feel it's important to be aware of that agenda and intent, because it changes the whole paradigm. Once that's out there and people start to realize, oh, you know what, I'm pushing this, and people click that I'm just doing this to make myself look like a good person, then that starts to fall away
Right.
to a large extent. Yeah.
Right.
And especially when you say, look, you're just pushing this, you really are ignorant about this. Really, when you come down to it, all women have an abortion once a month, no?
Right. I know. I mean, that's
You're aborting those eggs.
right.
They're not. That's it. So an abortion when later on it's a fertilized egg. That's all
Right.
the only difference.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's why it's so dangerous. People don't realize it because it's so small. They have to scrape the inside of the womb in
Right.
order to find it and get it out. And if you don't do that properly, you can injure the inside of the womb, and
Right.
the
Yeah.
backyard things with a coat hanger.
Right. Right.
Isn't that scary? Just the
It's
frightening, this idea.
incredibly scary. Yeah. Incredibly.
Unbelievable.
I
And,
think,
the other thing that really bothers me is the rape.
oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, and that's to me the clearest, the thing that's at the root of
Yeah.
not like truly good people who believe that this is something that, God is just totally against, and they believe that they're being good by, stepping out against abortion. But like the real root, the real like BMN root of anti-abortion thought is not being able to come to terms with the idea that other people are allowed to believe something different than you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's the real root of it for me.
Exactly,
Is like,
exactly,
I
exactly.
believe that this is right, and therefore it must be right for everyone. And
Yes,
anyone who is trying to have a different belief, you are threatening me, and I can't allow
yeah,
that. So
yes.
no,
It's
yeah,
either or mindset.
right,
It's that mentality of opposites. If it's not white, it has to be
right,
black. If it's not good, it has to be bad.
right,
If
and
it's not the same as
universal,
me and I'm good, it has to be
right,
bad. And
and
therefore, all things
universal
that are other are bad. Yeah,
universal right and wrong. It's not subjective. There is a blanket. This is always right. This is always wrong. It's right for everybody. It's wrong for everybody. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It's like a
Also,
refusal to face the fact that something that's right and good for me may not be right and good for someone else. Someone else is allowed to have their own belief. They're allowed to act on their own beliefs. It's,
yeah,
yeah,
celebration of difference, in other words.
right.
Yeah, yeah. It's just too fascinating, the whole mindset when it comes to this particularly. And this is very disturbing that the Texas law, that whole new Texas law where anybody can vigilante report, and
Yep.
that the Supreme Court refused to take this on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's bothersome here is that law needs to be struck down. Got nothing to do with abortion. If that law was on anything else that wasn't abortion, I cannot see how the Supreme Court could possibly leave it in place.
Right.
It is an anti-law law.
Right.
It makes a mockery of the legal system.
Right.
So this to me is very disturbing, because I can understand where, okay, abortion, I'm a Supreme Court justice. I can go either way. It's a moral issue. It's not a legal issue at some point, right? Especially if you're deciding now, okay, where does life begin? Because yes, we have a principle, thou shalt not kill, or okay, murder is illegal, right? So that's it. That's a root fundamental of pretty much all laws, right?
Right.
And also respect for life. Um, so I understand that if you're saying yes, but okay, in my opinion, life starts at conception. I can understand if this is from a Supreme Court justice that you uphold this position. That has nothing to do with the law, unless the law says life starts, at when there's a heartbeat or when it's a
Right.
viable fetus.
Right.
It's changed, by the way. It used to be, when it's a heartbeat, but the heartbeat starts so early. It's not a true heartbeat, really. So now it's when it's a viable fetus. That's the cutoff period.
Yeah.
I looked it up a little while back. At any rate, so I'm saying I can understand as a Supreme Court justice where objectivity is your middle name. And, this is the entire institution is built on this. So I can understand if you're voting your morality there. Fine, because, that's it. You're not going against the law. But to uphold your personal decisions against the law, that's a different thing.
Right.
And that's very worrisome in this particular case. Now, I would really like to hear from legal scholars if there's some legal justification where they, like some technicality where they say, look, this is like, okay, it's a states' rights issue, and, the law needs to go, they're trying to skip the state Supreme Court and they're getting to, if it's something like that, where we're getting sort of the non-legals, because it's complicated legally.
Right.
But still, it's worrisome that. So I'm hoping that it will turn out later, that they just sent us back and said, look, this is so corrupt that we don't want to touch this. It's like, come on, this stuff needs to be sorted out down there already.
Right.
Law should never have been made or whatever. You're actually making it worse for the abortion, not better. You may have a success in the short term, but you are now going to set precedents to have this legally entrenched, and then you will have all your options removed. So I'm not sure exactly. I haven't heard detailed on it because everybody's sort of overreacting on the big dealness of it, and they're not focusing on the legality of it.
Right.
So somebody has challenged it now. There's one guy in Chicago who sued the doctor who had to do it, who broke the law technically, and so he's now on this, with his 10,000 and all this bounty stuff and all that. But of course, all the lawyers and everybody on the abortion side are going to support the doctor. So yeah. So they'll make a best case out of it, and show the flawedness of the law. I
Yeah.
wanted to come on one other point here, which is a big point. Just I like discernment and overview perspective,
Hmm.
and to look at that bigger picture, right? So at least in this case with this law, I'm hoping the big make sense picture is that because it's so egregious, excess leads to excess, or excess breeds excess. So
Hmm.
that egregiousness is going to lead to the outrage, which will stupidity. People, they always jump the gun, and if they'd sort of done this quietly, they would have probably had a lot more success. But because they went to this egregious extreme, they're now going to collapse their whole bubble. So I'm
Right.
hoping that this is at least I'm fairly confident it will be. It's a strategically terrible move, and
Hmm.
that mindset, they do it all the time, right? All right, but on the point of abortion, especially late term abortions, one of the issues too that sometimes comes in is rape.
Right.
Not necessarily for late term, but
Right.
for
Right.
abortions in general, right? Um, well, at least past the term, some women, they just have no clue that they're pregnant.
Right.
So, and the awful truth is, okay, if you get raped, you certainly want to do a check, right, as soon as you
Right.
possibly can. You sort of have to assume, but nonetheless. So a lot of it is they want anti-abortion, no exceptions for even for rape.
Hmm.
This is fascinating to me. From supposedly the abortion people are very godly people.
Right.
How are you not going against the natural order? You are now saying that if you cannot pass on your DNA through the usual means, in other words, through consent, you can force your DNA to be perpetrated. Now,
Right. Right.
that's my agenda, right? So, okay, I'm an old guy and I'm moving on, and I say, hey, I want to have kids, but I've never been able to, get a woman to sleep with me and make things. And so, in other words, as far as nature's concerned, if you can't get this, if you can't breed, your DNA doesn't get passed on, right?
Right.
But I can force it.
Yeah.
And it's not because, okay, in nature you've got lots of rapes because it's breeding for strength. But in humans, we breed for other things besides strength. We've given up breeding for strength. We like, well, okay, still breed a little bit for looks, but even that has fallen by the wayside for a big measure.
Right.
We breed for intelligence and character. And, most women, the number one reason they choose a husband, at least in my observation, is fatherability.
Hmm.
That's what is the prime choice, when you really look at what women choose. So we're breathing in a roundabout way, for goodness, right?
Hmm.
For support, for work, for fatherability. Is he going to be a good father or not? That's the key question. Yeah, it's
Right.
fascinating.
Right.
But the rape, though, if you don't make that exception in abortion, you are going against that order, and you are creating an opening where the guy says, okay, fine, you know what, you put me in jail or you kill me, I don't care. At least I'm going to pass my DNA on.
Right.
So you are now breeding, rapists, and you're opening this door for them. And you can see the people who object to this. You just look at them and say, wow, I can see rape being part of your life. It's fascinating.
Right. Right.
It's astonishing how they would actually out loud say they support this.
Hmm.
It's too fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you are rewarding a criminal act.
Right.
How does this make any sense whatsoever? Yeah, no.
I agree.
Sorry. No.
I
It's
agree.
really, really, really fascinating. So, it's a really, when you talk about the ethics of things, to say, hey, how does this work?
Right.
Because look at the consequences of this too. Once this is, oh, wow, you know what? That's it. I can rape and breed. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, people who have a criminal mindset, they never think they're going to get caught.
Yeah.
So if they know that they are definitely going to breed children, I'm gonna take that chance. Doesn't matter, especially for older guys. But criminals, they never think they're going to get caught.
Right.
It's why the death penalty is not successful.
Yeah.
Like in Victorian England, they just hang you for whatever, any crime, pretty much. You steal an apple, you could be hung. Right? That's
Hmm.
it. It didn't change. It was one of the periods of highest crime, not low.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's
Interesting.
no correlation between the severity of the consequence and the
Right.
thing. The
Well,
correlation is need and necessity.
I mean, going back to the whole Bible thing and things not making sense. I mean, the same people who argue that abortion is wrong are also the same people who are big proponents of the death penalty.
Yeah.
And you're
Yes.
like, okay, if you're claiming that
Yeah.
the Bible says thou shalt not kill and whatever, and so don't, people shouldn't be having abortions,
Right.
how are you justifying supporting the death penalty? Or for that matter, supporting people owning guns and shooting people, taking justice into their own hands and saying, well,
Yep.
that's their
Yep.
choice.
Yep.
Well, I mean, it makes no sense to
Hypocrisy.
me.
But it makes sense when you consider this is their way to show I'm actually a good person, because they're not. They
Right,
want it all their own way, and they support war. And hey, you come on my property, I'm going to shoot you.
right,
Whether you're guilty or not. So they don't really have a high regard for life.
right.
And this is to prove that they do, because they know they actually don't. So they support abortion as out of guilty conscience. I find that absolutely fascinating.
Yeah,
Really, really interesting. You don't really care whatsoever. It's
right.
fascinating.
Yeah, it
Really
is.
interesting.
It is. I agree. I think that's, that concept of universal right and wrong, and coming to the conclusion for myself that there is no such thing as universal right and wrong. I mean, all this whole discussion is one of the reasons, just one of the reasons, that was so
Yeah.
mind blowing and life changing for me, because it affects everything. When you come to the conclusion that there is no universal right and wrong, and each of us, that's part of why we're here, is to determine, what
Exactly.
is
Exactly.
right for us or
Yes.
wrong for us,
Yes.
and that each one of us
Yes.
is doing that, and that it's
Yes.
dependent upon everyone's
Yes.
situation and what's appropriate for each person.
Yes.
That is totally life changing. I mean, it affects everything. It's
Yes.
amazing. It is amazing.
Yes. That's why I like that story, the gift of that story,
Hmm.
because it brings in another perspective. It says, wait a second, I see all the negative, the badness, the evil that comes from religion, right? And
Right.
and evil in simple ways. I'm calling it evil because the obedience. When people are truly obedient and really are, to me, that's really evil, because they've
Right.
been robbed, and their awareness has been stolen from them, right?
Right.
They never get to truly be real people. They just these shadow copies. They shadow
Right.
people, really. So that's horrible. That's really evil to me. So at any rate, however, so we don't have to change religion. We simply have to change the perspective on
Hmm.
religion.
Right.
When
Right.
you see your scriptures, which is what religions are so based on,
Hmm.
as this mechanism for you to determine and choose from, now it's genius
Right.
rather than horror. Right?
Right.
The only difference is to see it as something that you have to swallow piecemeal and be obedient, or it's there for you to choose and discern from. When
Right.
it's seen as this mechanism for stimulating choice and discernment and responsibility and your own ethics and standing for yourself, now it's genius.
Hmm.
Absolute incredible genius. And the absolute beauty of it for me is all the people that are already in that system, that whole culture and tradition. It doesn't have to go away. It just needs that one tiny little tweak, and
Hmm.
entire change can do. If the Pope, for instance, were to say read the story and click onto this and shift the viewpoint and start to bring this in as doctrine, that yes, the scriptures are flawed, but it's on purpose. God wrote
Right.
it on purpose. It's the genius of God, because it's for you to choose. Now your entire religion changes,
Right.
and now all your priests become facilitators,
Hmm.
and it automatically shifts into the logic that underlies way of impeccability.
Right.
Because how can you teach when it's about choice?
Right. Right.
You can't really.
Yeah.
You can't. You
Well,
can
and that's,
share.
I mean, to me, that's one of the really interesting things about, especially Jesus's teachings. everything was done, not everything, but a lot. I mean, one of his favorite methods was through parables, right? Which was literally just sharing, it's
Yes,
storytelling.
yes, exactly.
And I think that's, I mean, to your point, if you go back and look at these parables as examples of someone sharing, this is what was right for me, and
Yes.
here's an example of someone
Yeah,
being appropriate and doing whatever, not if you find yourself in this situation, you should follow this exactly to the letter of the law, and this is how we should always be behaving, but an example of someone figuring out what was right and appropriate for them.
right.
That's awesome. But I mean, I that was one of the things I always loved as a kid. I mean,
Yeah,
my favorite things to read in the Bible were the parables,
yeah,
because
yeah.
it's not, Old Testament, again, Old Testament God to me was so much about rules and,
Yeah,
thou shalt not, thou shall, blah, 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 blah.
yeah, yeah,
Universal right and wrong kind of an idea. And I think, I mean, it's really interesting to see the juxtaposition of the effectiveness
yeah.
of that kind of sort of preaching versus storytelling, sharing, seeing. And one of the things that I think was so interesting too about the parables was it wasn't Jesus saying, here's the answer, plain as day, thou shalt always do blah, blah, blah. He would share a story, and the point was like, whoever's listening, take what is appropriate for you out of this, right? Like,
Exactly.
what do you think about this story? What do you think the moral
Yes,
of this story
yeah,
was? Like, what's the point of this?
yes,
And I just think that's such a
yeah,
more
yeah,
effective
yeah.
way of getting people to come to their own conclusions and figure out what's appropriate than just, blah, 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 blah. So I don't know.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I would love to have like an inside line into the Pope, right? Like, and my alien friends hook me up and I say, hey, listen, if they say, okay, I can hook you up with one other brain on the planet and you can,
Right, right.
influence them, right? I say,
That's
okay, well,
funny.
look me up to the Pope. I want to influence the Pope's brain. So, okay, so the Pope has this thing. He says, listen, contact this. I had this vision from God, told me you got to find the Erica Parker and she's got to rewrite the New Testament.
Right.
That's it. It's old times, things got to do. I think if you were to rewrite the New Testament, it would be fabulous, because just that word appropriateness, which is missing from the entire Bible, not once is it mentioned. It's
Right,
fascinating. Not
right,
even one. When you bring this into, and you change the way Jesus is teaching, and he says, look, this is about being appropriate. And the Good Samaritan story, this was a story where, hey, you broke the rules because the rules said you can't contact, you can't touch, whatever. Well, that was appropriate, right? And the same thing when people said to you, well, respect the Sabbath. Yeah, but what do you do if your donkey falls into the well?
right,
Jesus said, take care of the donkey. In other
right.
words, appropriate. It's
Be
like, duh,
appropriate.
man, come on,
Right,
think for yourself, right? So, but he never used that word. So much of the whole New Testament could be really potent if it's simply communicated more efficiently, more effectively, and
right.
more appropriately. And
Well,
with the appropriate conceptions involved, it
right.
would change the
And
whole deal.
that is one of the things I remember thinking that as a kid. Um, One of the people at our church actually learned Hebrew specifically so that they could read the original,
The Old Testament, right?
Old Testament writings
Right.
and have it be closer to, the original interpretation. And I remember, I mean, I think that I don't remember how old I was when she was doing that, and my mom told me that that's what was happening. I was maybe like 8, I want to say. And that was kind of the first time that it like really sunk into me that the Bible is multiple translations of what originally happened. And even the
Exactly.
original writing by the the original gospels or whatever by his
Yeah.
various disciples are that person's interpretation of what was going on. And so there, you know, I mean,
and even worse, none of them knew Jesus that wrote the New Testament.
To me, I mean, that's I just find that fascinating. I find that so fascinating, that something that so many people take so literally. It's like this. And when you consider that, I mean, you know, like the King James version of the Bible, that was our church only read the King James version because it was the closest, you know, we didn't want to do the newer because that was yet another interpretation. And I'm going, okay, but when you think about this, you know, all these people throughout history commissioned new versions of the Bible, and all of that was to serve some political purpose. And so who knows what kind of
doctrinal purpose, which is again, it's interpretation.
Right.
So I'm saying my version is different to that version. There's some interpretation involved.
Who knows what spin was put in there for purely political reasons or whatever. And so all, you know, everything that's in there has to be taken with a major grain of salt. And I mean, you know, what would you give to be a fly on the wall when like for Jesus's actual teachings? Who knows what he said? Maybe he really did say, be appropriate, you know, and we just don't know, because the people who took this down were writing this stuff out, first of all, as memories or secondhand memory, you know, whatever. I mean, it's just, I think that's so fascinating that so many people take these things so literally, when you know that this is just, you know, this is 2,000 years of reinterpretation and translation of what's been going on.
So you know, when you hook up with the time travelers, people always say, yeah, but you know, if time travel existed, how come we don't see the time travelers?
Right.
Well, okay, it does exist, or it can exist, but here's the problem. So in the beginning of time travel, you could only go forward in time, and you can actually still do that today, right? I mean, you go out in space and you age slower and you come back. So you know, there's that time travel, but then they actually developed the reverse, right? And you can go back in time. Problem was, going back in time caused all sorts of problems. And one of the major problems was that it collapsed religion. When people actually heard what Jesus and Buddha and all these people said, and you know, they found out that you know, Muhammad was on crack. That's it. Sorry, you know, it was just a, you know, he had visions, and he said, well, there you go. You know, you know, much like some of the okay, Muhammad succeeded, right? Whereas then they made this list of all the other people who started religions the same way, but they didn't take because they couldn't sell it the way Muhammad could. He was a good salesman, right? He was a good BSA, in other words. So it didn't work for the rest. So when all these awful truths started to come out, they said, no, we don't want nothing to do with time travel anymore. We're going to ban it because it, you know, it collapsed religion, for instance. And not just religion, but all of your mythical fairy tales and stuff, you know. You know, the whole thing of King Arthur, there was no King Arthur, you know, guy sucked it out of his thumb, and that was the end of story, you know. Nobody even close or remotely close to that, you know.
That's pretty good.
So it makes sense, you know, that there would be a ban on that because of this stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, who's not going to vote for that? Because somebody or other, your pet theory is going down the tubes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, all your histories, every single one of them, all wrong. That's it. All of them are wrong. You know, I really pay attention to just as a practice, something that I want to develop the habit and the mindset of. I watch news, contemporary news, and also especially when I have an opportunity to see it directly. So I watch how things get reported, and not just in the news, but from people too. Right? Because everybody reports on stuff, you know, so I'm part of the experience, and I hear somebody telling somebody else about this experience. I really pay attention to what happens in the telling of the story, so that when I watch news and when I watch history, I can have some idea to reverse engineer that to get to some semblance of accuracy. where people tend to exaggerate and where they tend to omit and stuff like that. It's very, very powerful.
Yeah.
I just love that history is so it's his story.
Yes.
I mean, if this doesn't give you a clue that this is BMN tales, that's it,
Right.
It's just fascinating. It's just fascinating. And when you understand BMNs, when you write that history, you better make sure it's writing it to make the guy happy. All right, maybe you can do it a little bit later.
Right.
One fun fact. If there was a court case on Jesus, whatever, something that Jesus did, you could not admit the New Testament. It's not acceptable in the court of law because it'll all be hearsay.
Right.
That's it. Because the people who wrote it didn't know Jesus. They knew people who knew Jesus.
Right.
Which is hearsay. Right. Isn't that fascinating? It's not admissible in the court of law, the New Testament.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's hearsay.
Interesting.
It's really fascinating. I mean, there are exceptions in law where hearsay is sometimes admissible, but in general not. Yeah,
right.
It's unreliable. It's just our legal system is saying nope, sorry.
Right. Yeah.
And let's see. Only one of the we haven't done the perspective shifting workshop.
I don't think so. No.
On the 10 Commandments.
We've talked about it.
We haven't actually done it. All right, we'll do it at some point. Even knowing this, we'll do it in a different way because yes, the beginning part is going to be superfluous for you, but the follow-on parts will be very valuable. And also coming into it with the perspectives that we have, there's a logic to why it's set up the way it is.
Right.
It's very, very, very powerful. It actually goes into what I was just saying about the reporting, about how people remember and connect to stuff. It's really, really fascinating. And you may want to use that as kind of like, they used to call them parlor games back in the day. But you invite a few friends over and say, okay, we're going to play this game, and then you share that workshop. It's a fascinating exercise. And it's really fun because, I've done this when we did the Airbnb workshops, right? So what happens, and sometimes you get people from different people, not didn't happen too often, but it did happen a couple of times where people who didn't know each other were there, right? Now, you've sort of got to know your stuff a little bit as a facilitator,
right?
To at least have that where you can make people comfortable, right? So, when we do the hearing and helping, a lot of that will come out. I really spent a lot of time working on that. And people got to be comfortable very, very quickly, which was very important. And then they would share all of their secrets, and you can create an environment where they would just share stuff, right? Deeper stuff. And this is like big deal stuff, really, is coming out. It's too fantastic.
Yeah.
But, and then when family was together or partners, that was the magical thing. When you did it with your partner, you were like, oh, wow, I didn't know that about you. It's like, oh, you're actually serious about that thing with the cats? Oh, I know. And it's like, oh, crap, okay, I know for next time, I mean, they really were, their eyes were opened.
Yeah.
And it brought them closer, which is, it's design, it's built into the whole workshop. It's
right.
Purposely. So there's a lot to it. I'm excited to share with you because, when I do this, when I have done it, I'm just doing it for the stated intent.
Right.
But I want to do it with you and go into the process of the making of it. See? So I want to share that with you because, that's the Moreness part, the underlying logic of how come it's set up this way and so on and so forth. It's very, very cool. And like I said, if you were to do this as a game, this is, just as you invite a couple of friends over and say, here you go, especially friends who are up for stuff like that. This is a really, really cool, fun thing to do. Every time I did that, some people were, a bit pressed on it, but they all enjoyed the experience. They were a bit pressed at certain instances during it, but as it went through further, the end of it, at the end of the day, they all enjoyed the experience.
Right.
Tremendous. But, the ones that didn't were those who, I guess, a little bit too uptight, a little bit, awful truth is not so much, or, hey, I'm forced to actually think. It's like, oh, crap,
Right.
and who felt a bit put on the spot by needing to think and share.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it wasn't too much of it, but a little bit. But anyway, we'll do it all together. I mean,
Yeah.
this would be a great thing, and I really would recommend at some point, if you that you actually do it, where you host it,
Right.
because that would have to be right, and you have to have printouts. I'll share the whole thing with you. You get a couple of clipboards and you do the printouts and you play the audio. It is a whole little performance thing, but still,
Mm-hmm.
it's worthwhile simply to be in that position where you are the guide, the facilitator, and
Mm-hmm.
you are that's it, you're facilitating, and you have to apply all of our skills of not just capital diplomacy, but the capital H hearing and
Right.
attentiveness,
Right.
discernment. All is so much that comes into being the presenter of it. I mean, yeah, it could be done just going through the motions, but if you really add the extra layer, you will blossom. The thing becomes a flower.
Mm-hmm.
It gets to be a Moreness, and the end result of it is also something tangible that people can take away or value.
Right.
It's I don't want to give do a spoiler here, but there's a big dealness to this. It really is a big deal. It's a massive big deal. So, all right, whenever we can get into it. Now, don't go look at it.
Don't go look at it. Okay.
Yeah, because it's on the slides. You can
Oh,
put it
okay.
up
Okay.
as a
Got
deck,
it.
right? You can, because it is one of the few where there are spoilers as you go through. It's built into the design that
Right.
if you know where it's going, it sort of collapses a little bit. You do need to come into it blind. This is very,
Okay.
very important. Yeah, and also actually, it doesn't work so well online. When I have done it with people online, I sent them a file and said, just print it all out. And then, they have the printed ones because you write on it and stuff like that. So it
Right.
does require the printout. Yeah. Yeah. Or at least it helps. It doesn't translate so because it was set up for that, for the intent. So very, very, very exciting stuff. Wow, you got me all excited about this now. But, it's one of the things that, again, that I feel could be sort of like a societally changing things at this whole point.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm more excited to do it with you, to essentially share with you the behind the scenes process of doing it. So you're going to have a double benefit of, yes, going through it as the project, but some of it's going to be a bit lost on you. It won't matter. At least the first parts won't matter, but still.
Right.
But then to do it, as sharing the facilitator aspects and having you get into that part where you coming into it with, yes, I'm going to do it for the experience so that I know what it's about, but also I am going into this with the intent to learn how to facilitate this should I choose to do it. Okay, if you don't, that's fine too. I mean, I really, I suggest and recommend, but if you don't want to do it, that's totally fine, right? Because it has to be appropriate, So.
Right. Right.
But I would really recommend that because, again, too, I don't know if you do have friends over every now and then, and maybe there's a little bit of sitting on your thumb, you don't know what to do, or not. Sometimes people, they have friends over and it's like, well, what are we going to do? What, and they, I don't know, stop playing games or whatever.
Right. Right.
Yeah, but this is so much better than, I don't know, whatever the game thing is, Jenga
Yeah.
or whatever. Yeah, I mean, it's like 100 zillion times better. Yeah.
We very rarely have friends over.
I'm listening, Erica. I should get something. I'm listening. Go ahead.
Joe, I was actually saying this to Mom the other day, that I realized that Joe he's not antisocial exactly, but he's very introverted and does not, like, he will never be the one to suggest doing something with other people, even though he generally tends to enjoy it every once in a while if you get him to go. Like, he won't be the one to initiate it. And this is what I was saying, I had realized recently and was saying to Mom, that I'm realizing that I have just kind of fallen into the pattern of kind of Joe's way of being, and just have kind of gone along with whatever. And I have realized lately that, there's a lot of things that I would like to be doing, including socializing with other people, that I just haven't like taken the initiative to do, because I just have sort of fallen into the habit of Joe's normal
Yes,
routine,
yes,
which is just come home, sit on the
yes.
couch, look, stare at the TV, whatever. And so maybe I will, get it together and start inviting
Yeah,
people over here
yeah,
sometime soon.
yeah. Yeah, and I'm pleased you're aware of this, because what you just said leads to one of the biggest complaints that I hear from women
Mm,
later in life, right? Or regrets. That they say, I can't hold it against my husband or my partner or whatever. I just kind of went along with stuff.
right,
And I sort of fell into this rut, and it's the thing slipped me by.
right,
So this workshop would actually be a way out of. You don't do it as a social thing. I mean, invite people over and say, "Look, I've got a project, and that's it." You invited, and it's like kind of you're helping me out in a way. But you don't want to say this help, because when people think they're helping you, then they tend to offer advice, and you don't want that, right? So that's it. But you're going to be doing this, and it's going to be fun. Trust me, it's going to be fun.
right,
You just push the agenda a little bit. And they don't have to know why you're doing it or whatever. It's just say, come, it's different. There's moreness involved. It's not the usual thing. There's some surprise involved, and okay, stretch you a little bit, etc., right?
right.
You set it up in that way. There you go. And it's just good to do as well, especially if you do it with people. Okay, initially I imagine you'll probably have Kay and Joe. Make a point to have them there, because it takes a couple of practice tries to get smooth in the
Right.
facilitation, right? And that's really, really worthwhile, especially in this type of facilitation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the pause from the facilitator point of view, or at least the person running the thing, you have to wait, you have to wait, you have to wait, you have to watch, you have to really, really pay attention to many things. So this is going to be a way to actually practice in a real world situation, all the stuff in the hearing and helping.
Cool.
Yeah. Very, very powerful stuff. Very, very powerful stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very cool. It's very cool. It just makes me all excited.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd sort of forgotten about it a little bit, because it's not one of the things that I share online very often. I did it with Sue, and Sue had a couple people. Somebody else was involved there as well that came along. But other than that, I don't remember who else. Somebody else I did it with, but it just doesn't generally come up because it's more geared for in person.
Right.
Yeah, but still, it's very fun, very exciting. Yeah, because I just think the opportunity to actually practice and apply is right. And just to share that sort of behind the scenes discernment. I do a lot of the times with you, or I have been making an effort to do so, but yeah, it would be more concentrated and focused, because we haven't gotten into the hearing and helping so specifically yet. So, I don't always go in depth, because then the stuff is a bit disjointed. I like it to be more coherent.
Right.
Yeah. Very cool. So I'm assuming, did you have more continuation from last? Oh, before we go, I was just going to carry on with where you stopped last time. I don't know if you have more or not from Feeling and Believing.
Well, since I couldn't get into
Right.
the
That's what I
thing.
think. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
But
have
I
any.
wanted to go back to the confidence point, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because the confidence is so huge to me. And it's interesting, when we started talking about it, one of my memories was that post with confidence. That's it. It's pinned at the top of the group there.
Oh, yeah.
At any rate, that the confidence is it ties to so much of all the other things that we've spoken about, right? Trust, self-trust, of course, right? Self-acceptance, self-appreciation. All of these are key elements. That humility and the false humility, absolutely key when it comes
Right.
to, and now it starts to connect back to confidence. What about humility, false humility?
Where's my...
I guess the reverse of that would be overconfidence.
Right.
That's inappropriate now.
We talked last time about honesty.
Yes,
And how
yes.
honesty in the case of
That's
confidence
right,
is
exactly.
detrimental.
And how yes, 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 yes. So many things tie back to confidence. Now,
Mm-hmm.
at some point we have to, or at least when confidence is involved, it's just that we decide.
Right.
It has nothing to do with experience, nothing to do with anything really. It just comes down to an individual decision to do or not to do.
Right.
And you decide, I can do this, and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
We know now, if we're honest and we are aware to say, okay, like take my example, because that's one of the things that came up, right? This was in that I spend a lot of time thinking about a lot of stuff before I go to sleep and when I wake up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not always sure how much of it is, usual normal thinking, but I do spend a lot of time thinking then. And some of it will come out in kind of scene or story form, like this thing with the stoning. But in my head, I didn't go into it. I made this whole speech, and a lot of times I will say, okay, that, and then I kind of rewrite it, and basically I'm working on the scene like it's a movie scene, right? I'm directing the movie, right?
Right.
In my mind. It's very useful. It's very useful. I mean, I do it before I go to sleep as a review of the day. It was in the way of impeccability. Very useful exercise. At any rate, with this thinking it through like that, and the reworking of it, this is like in that scene. That was all about stepping up and having the confidence to convey this. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So now I say yes. Okay. I say, would I or would I not? I said, well, it depends on how strongly I felt
Mm-hmm.
time. But is that the only criteria? I mean, for me, if I'm motivated, I have no problem doing whatever. I've done really wonderfully wild things that I never had any connection to before
Right.
because we felt strongly about it. Like when I told the advocate, I was still, just out of, I think even, it was either in the last year of school or just at the
Mm-hmm.
year or two after. I don't think I was in my 20s yet anyway. So I was technically still a teenager. At any rate, that was because of I felt the rightness of it so strongly,
Right.
and it wasn't based on nothing. It wasn't just a feeling. I'd really thought this thing through, and it's like, no, sorry, dude, can't be.
Right.
Same thing. Like I said to God with this whole Abraham deal. So, nope, sorry,
Right.
nope.
Right.
I've thought this thing through, and okay, educate me, but as it stands, sorry, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is important. So now, though, with the confidence, so I know that, I can act against my experience if I feel strongly enough. And usually that strong feeling is based on something, right?
Right.
However, in a case like that, the key factor that's going to determine the success of, I'm standing up to save the woman's life, obviously, right?
Mm-hmm.
The factor that's going to determine the success is my confidence.
Right. Right.
So now you have to just decide to be confident, and you have to basically say, when I stand up there and do this, I have to jump into it, boots and all. Right?
Mm-hmm.
No, there's no testing it. I can't start timidly. No, you have to just take that risk. So confidence is so much predicated on the ability to assume risk consciously, willingly, and
Right.
deliberately.
Right.
Now, this is not courage, which is a different thing.
Mm.
Right? Yes, courage is also, in courage, you don't actually assume risk, you thwart risk or
Okay.
defy risk. It's slightly different, right?
Interesting.
At least in my perception, right? I mean, I'm being courageous. Well, I know I'm taking a risk, but I kind of have to, right? Whereas
Right.
with confidence, I'm assuming a risk, I'm taking it on as a choice, which is a very different thing. Yeah.
Hmm.
I
Interesting.
mean, at least for me, it's a nuance, but it's very
Yeah.
subtle. I don't feel like I'm quite expressing it properly. But there's a big difference between the risk when you do something out of confidence, because it's free. You don't have to do it. With this courage, okay, technically you don't have to, but sort of ethically you do. But I guess in that case, where I'm standing up, in order to make my presentation to the stone throwing crowd, right? I have to be confident, and it's an act of courage.
Right.
Both, right? But the courage is not going to be enough, because I could stand up and be courageous, but stand there all kind of, defying my fear, and I'm obviously fearful, and they can see it, but I'm being courageous to stand up to them. That's not enough.
Mm.
I want to have the confidence which is going to present the queuing. I
Right.
have
Right.
come from a queuing position where what I'm saying is, wow, I better listen to him because, well, he knows what's going on.
Right.
I have to deliberately utilize that public speaking mechanism in order to get their attention and to get them to pause and actually to stop and listen to what I'm saying, right?
Right.
So, and again, you can't be acting it. You have to really feel it. And that's only going to come from this adoption of confidence. But, you're sort of jumping into the deep end, not knowing how to swim to
Right.
a large extent. But because you trust, it works. So it's one of those peculiar things where that we have to, the bottom line is we just really decide and we take on this risk willingly.
Yeah.
And we have to take it on without fear. So we have to go past courage, because to me, courage is doing the stuff despite your fear.
Right. Yeah. To
Confidence
me,
is
it's
getting rid of the fear.
almost coming across as like courage is sort of the act of overcoming your fears or facing risk, but confidence is like a state of being.
Yes, but there is a big difference.
Totally in here.
Yes. I just need to articulate the difference. Courage is acting in defiance of your fear. Confidence is also acting in defiance of your fear. In addition, you actually banish the fear.
Right.
Right. Because with courage, I mean, yes, I can go into whatever the situation is. I'm going to say I'm scared as hell, but I'm still acting. That's
Right.
courage. All right. But if I have confidence, then I don't actually feel the fear.
Right.
Yeah. That's the key in confidence. It's to banish the fear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right.
Interesting.
Because if I'm in that situation and I'm standing up there giving this, making an effort to change the mood and the tone and the mindset there, I cannot have one iota of fear. Right? Because already you've got a crowd that's in that predator mindset, right? And victims invite aggression. Hello, dog.
And you see him shaking. Speaking of fear, it's thundering here, and he's shaking so hard that he's vibrating the entire couch.
Wow.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, your own personal private massage engine.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of courage and confidence.
Yeah. You know what fascinates me with that behavior of tanks? He never learns.
No, I know. It's unbelievable. I was just thinking about that this morning with the mailman, and that, he's 12 years old now, or maybe 13. And every day it is the same thing, no matter how much we say, no, stop, don't do that, whatever. Doesn't matter. And it always blows my mind with like thunder. I mean, when has thunder ever hurt him? Ever. Doesn't matter. He's freaked out.
I wonder if you were to get a little a treat dispensing thing that he can activate with his paw,
right?
And you hook it up to a sound that when he gets the treat, he puts the paw, it plays thunder very softly.
Right.
So it's very, very mild, right? But now he says, oh, cool. But it gradually increases it, right?
Right.
So it's incremental change. And, I wonder if he will overcome his fear of the thunder, because at the end point of it, it's the same, obviously, as the thunder that would be natural, right?
Right.
The same volume and way it comes through. I wonder if through that incremental change, if it would change them. It should do, because it's reconditioning.
Yeah.
No. It's very interesting, because this is this and firecrackers, it causes a lot of stress to the pet owners.
Yes.
So this is a very simple thing to arrange. I mean, it's just as a product to sell in the pet stores.
Right. Yeah.
I got so many good products, The see-through toaster.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, actually, that's one. I have many. I've got, or at least had. I've forgotten half them. That one I remember because it was actually one of my employees said it in the store. His name was Soup. SUP. Soup.
I like it.
Yeah, big stoner. Boy, this guy was, but boy, he was something else though. Because most of the stoners, I mean, they really make the dopey. They make the name legitimate, right? The cliche. But he was a sharp guy, even though
Yeah.
he was very casual and laid back. I liked him as a sharp guy. At any rate, he though was the way you see in the movies, the fancy pants guys who drink the wine, the connoisseurs,
Hmm.
and they can tell you where the vintage is, and where the
Yeah.
vine, all the
Yeah.
things. He could do that with any marijuana. He would tell you where
Wow.
it was grown. He would tell you what the blend was.
That is pretty impressive.
It was very impressive. Yeah. He just was an absolute expert on it. Yeah. He ended up being a teacher, which, with the advent of the growing, I sort of thought he could have gone into it as a consultant,
Hmm.
Yeah. But anyway, or maybe he got out of it entirely. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Because he wasn't only, I mean, he was absolutely a connoisseur on marijuana, but
Right.
he tried everything else as well. So maybe he just got out of it
Interesting.
entirely because, at some point, I see this regularly. The guys, they sort of realize this is not sustainable. Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's really interesting. So anyway, back to the confidence that, with confidence, you absolutely have to jump into it and not be fearful, which is a very different thing to courage, right? Because like I said, for the most part, any fear that you feel is going to cancel out your confidence.
Right.
So this is an absolute assumption of whatever you're doing. You're taking it on. You're assuming doability by you, and it's based on a decision. Yes, that can have some substantiation to it, but nonetheless, you're still basically jumping into the deep end, essentially,
Right.
with full, complete, and utter trust.
Right. Right.
All right, so I want to add in one other thing here, and this is a big topic that I touch on every now and then because it's a huge deal, and it's very difficult to communicate. That assumption of confidence, which is also the banishment of fear. It's a banishment of uncertainty, doubt, insecurity, humility, modesty.
Right.
That's it. You throwing all of that out, right? So that's very anti our mindset for the most part.
Right.
This is like, ow. I mean, isn't that kind of bullshit? Totally.
Right.
In a way it is, right? So, okay, so we want to say in our version of confidence is kind of a legitimate bullshit. In the same way as we've discovered that all these things, everything has its value or not, depending on the circumstance. So in this case, we're saying, okay, there is a time for legitimate BS, which is sort of, kind of, all right. It's not totally empty because I know I technically can do it, but it's the feeling that's the issue.
Right.
So it's not actually bullshit. I mean, I can stand up and give that speech, but it's to get to the appropriate feeling, which will make for the appropriate cueing. That's the key issue.
Right.
Which is where this whole thing is tying together for me, right? That's why I've been thinking about it, because we were busy with the mood shifting and the mood changing and the mood painting and also mood construction, right? I think of them both. Not just mood painting, but also mood construction. Sometimes a mood painting, all right, you sort of know what you want and you paint it and you put it together. But a mood construction, I have no idea. So I start, I build, and as I build, I discover where it's going and how I need to build it, right? I have to construct it.
Right.
And I think in many of these cases, that's the issue. You have to sort of construct it. But it's really, when I thought it through all the way to the end, I said, you know what? It really comes down to me just making this choice to do so. Now, if I have the ability to mood shift, it becomes easy. Now, this is the point I want to mention. Doorbell again?
No, it just started pouring down rain
Oh, you're a lucky
out the
fish.
window.
Oh, you're a lucky fish. I just so love the rain. Oh. I truly think I feel the earth when it rains.
You see it raining out there?
Yes. But I truly feel that I feel the earth. I get very joyful and happy, and I start laughing when it rains and stuff like that. Yeah, because you're feeling the joy of the earth.
Yeah, I like the rain. I like the rain too.
Oh, it looks so beautiful through a window, like a painting.
Yeah, it's really coming down out there.
But I mean, the view out of the window is nice.
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad you have a good view. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. So I was saying about this assumption
Right.
that now it's about changing your mood, in other words. So
Mm-hmm.
mood shifting
Uh-oh.
comes down to a big point, right? Now, that whole conversation. How exactly?
Oop, there we go. Sorry, it cut out for a second, and I think it's caught up now.
Yeah. Well, I paused. Yeah.
There we go.
So how exactly do we change a mood? So because Bina said to me, but how do you choose to be joyful? I do it. So I said, and then I started on this topic. So my point is that when we actually choose moods, it comes from shifting your body, reconfiguring your body. That's how you change mood, when you get it right down to the actual practical. Like if we were to kids would ask, but how? Well, you change your body, right? You're feeling miserable, change your face, start smiling. Right. So, but to feel joy though, happiness basically just sits on the mouth and the face, right?
Yeah.
Joy goes deeper. Yes. To me, that's the difference between happiness and joy. That happiness is kind of up here, but when you start to feel joy, you bring it right down into the belly. Yes.
Right.
When you start to feel deeperness, at least when you start to feel connected, like, words sort of like, I would imagine a rapture, but specifically the joy when it's connected to some sort of empowerment, the arms and the legs start to feel as well, right?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you could feel joy, but you're not feeling it in the arms. When you start feeling it in the arms and the legs, it's that power starts to come into it. And when you experience things like grace or reverence, they become whole body experiences. Elation, ecstasy, bliss, all of the ultimate superlatives, all are entire whole body experience, right? So this is very key. And when it comes to confidence, this is absolutely key. The ability to shift and change your body, not just in terms of posture and stance and face or walk even, but internally in order to change it, right? So that reconfiguring of the physical body is absolutely essential in this entire process of mood shifting, mood management, mood painting, mood construction, and of course for confidence and trust.
Right.
If we can, and now it goes even further, if we are able to physically change our way of being, at least the internal way we hold ourselves. In other words, repurposing of tension. And I'm using this very, very deliberately to say repurposing tension. The body cannot really function without tension. Yeah. I mean, if you say, well, when I'm resting, I still have tension.
Right.
Because look at the difference between resting and being anesthetized.
Right.
Yeah. It's a very big difference, right?
Sure.
So, and being anesthetized isn't always restful, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that's a big difference. So we have to understand that tension is absolutely necessary. There's actually a term for it in architecture, which Carlos borrowed. It's called tensegrity.
Oh, wow. I like it.
It's the tension necessary to maintain integrity.
Yeah.
Term,
I like it.
Yeah, I love it. It's a fantastic term, right? The tension, at least is my definition of it from my understanding. They might not define it so exactly, but the tension necessary to maintain integrity, right? So you have to have a certain amount of tension in a building, otherwise it'll just collapse and fall apart, right? Yeah. So that's the architectural term, tensegrity. At any rate, so the tension that's always there, but we have to have some kind of tension, but we can shift that tension and repurpose it to be more appropriate. Right? What is the difference between a kind of annoyance, anger, irritation, stress in the jaw, and determination?
Intent, maybe?
Exactly. It's a very slight tweak. You end up having the same essential set in the jaw, right? But there's a different flavor to it, a different intent to it.
Right.
It is the tension has been repurposed because of the shift of intent. So this is the same thing. When we take our passions and our energy, when we are looking to, say, for instance, adopt a posture of confidence, we need to simply repurpose that. And the passion is the key, right? So in that case, I have to say, well, I'm motivated. I have to feel something here. Yeah. So I may not care for the woman. She may be a dreadful person, but I care about the principle or whatever. Right. Find something in order. So this comes now down to confidence becomes an issue of self-motivation, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not just about mood shifting. This is not a mood that I particularly care to take on. I have to take it on in order to, from a sort of a mental or psychological reasons. So I have to find a way to feel what I need to feel. If I feel it, it's easy.
Right.
So we have to learn to self-motivate, which is, to me, one of the superpowers of all superpowers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this part of shifting the body is something I practice every single day. My body, when I wake up in the morning, it is in not a good space. I have to sort of untangle it.
Right.
It's a fascinating thing, maybe it does that because I chose this, whatever, and because it's forcing me to deal with this and to explore these mechanisms of shifting the physicality and internally and through intent and awareness of intent to change the tensionality and repurpose it. Now, yes, something very, very, very important that I have discovered in this, right? I mean, we've been doing this for a long, long time. It's a very big deal, very big topic also. And that is that we may say, oh, you know what, to repurpose tension, that's a great idea. But you're going to discover that you're not aware of your tension.
Right.
Some tensions have become so habitualized that we don't even know there is tension there.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the times when we start to do this, we have to start to feel the body, and you have to basically go to where you don't feel stuff and kind of poke around and explore and open up. And wow, okay. And then you start to feel what was not accessible to you.
Right.
We don't really realize how little we feel in the body, because the tensions get so locked in and habitualized, and because it's something that you have to basically shut down feeling it, otherwise it would overwhelm you.
Right.
Because it's a locked in tension. It's a negative tension.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
That
So,
is.
when it's awareness of tension in the body, that's kind of a whole huge, big topic and exploration just in itself. But still, this awareness starts, though, with the necessity to self-motivate, because otherwise, when you are in a situation where you need to adopt confidence, and it comes down to that choice, I may know I have the actual physical capabilities, the skills, the psychological, the understanding, the language. I have everything needed, but I don't feel it.
Right.
If I don't feel it, I'm not confident.
Yeah.
Right? So confidence is about the ability to self-motivate.
Mm-hmm.
Core quality for confidence.
Like
yes, there are other aspects, but at least when you take sort of the involved, that I'm not going to want to take on something if, like for instance, I if this was in a foreign language, I can speak a couple of dozen words of Spanish. I'm not going to take on that speech in Spanish.
Right.
That would just be foolish. I know this is, sorry, I cannot do it. I don't have the language skills for it. And it's not something that, well, okay, sink or swim. I won't even attempt it because, well, I just don't have it. Sorry.
Right.
I mean, maybe if it's life or death, maybe, I might be motivated to try it despite all that's possible, but still, just, I'm just using it for the purpose of the example now.
Right.
My confidence is obviously taking for granted my impeccability, that, and most things that I would have this thing on, I wouldn't even be considering adopting confidence if the rest of the stuff wasn't there already.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it wouldn't be a question. It wouldn't even come up. That's it. Yeah. I'm not going to be questioning my confidence of adopting the postures and stances and mindsets to be a brain surgeon. It's not relevant.
Right.
It's just taken for granted that all the factors are already there. The only thing is that's missing is the confidence, but it's not really the confidence that's missing. It's the motivation that's missing.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's very interesting. So when we see confidence as a motivation issue, it changes everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because I know once I'm motivated, I'm very confident. I do all sorts of the craziest, most wonderful. Truly, there's nothing that stops me when I'm motivated. Confidence isn't even a thought. It's only a thought when I'm not motivated.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the reverse, there's another bonus that we get out of this, that we can use our because we sort of a bit hung up on confidence, maybe. So, well, we take it as a negative against us, but maybe my confidence is just telling me, dude, don't do this because you're not motivated.
Right. Right.
The natural way of getting me to do stuff that I think I should do.
Mm-hmm.
Not. So if I'm not confident about it, that's it. Well, I'm not motivated enough. If I was
Right.
motivated, I'd be
Right.
confident. Fascinating,
Yeah.
yeah?
It is. It is. That's interesting.
It is. It's very interesting. Now, we can use that as an excuse. We have to be careful. So this is where our impeccability and our
Mm-hmm.
internal honesty and our internal integrity and our internal conscience and ethics comes into it, right? This is very key. And we have to have that habit, or not habit, but that absolute core that we don't bullshit ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's very key, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, yes, there is, times where, like I said, there is such a thing as appropriate BS, which is why people give it a pass.
Right. Right.
But when I'm pacifying somebody who's in shock or whatever, or
Right.
who's terrified out of their wits by something stupid,
Mm-hmm.
like thunder, I'll tell them any bullshit to make them feel better,
Right.
or this happens. Boy, I saw this with some fish thing that people were on a boat, and I don't know, a fish came close, and these people get all terrified, and it's like the fish are just curious. How they
That's
eat us and everything.
funny.
And their fear was really threatening the situation.
Right. Right.
Yeah. I mean, rocking the boat, whatever, falling off, or just the fear could attract the animal, put it into predatory mode.
Right.
They get irrational, in other words,
Mm-hmm.
grossly. So when people are in that, I'll bullshit the hell out of them to get them to shut up and chill and be calm, and because hey, you're risking my life. I have no compunction in lying the hell out of things
Right.
to you. Never mind bullshit. I'll lie my ass off to get you to be appropriate. Yeah.
Right.
So I'm just saying, appropriateness is so magical. I just can't get enough of appropriateness. Yeah. Remember the movie Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, right?
I feel like I've seen that a long time ago, but it's been a pretty long time.
Well, the key thing there is that they always just said excellent, was their
Yeah.
little,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And they would go around, and whenever they were just happy, they were excellent.
Right.
And then, however, though, so they get into this sort of time warp thing, and they go into the future, and in the future they venerated as these great founders of this culture.
Mm-hmm.
And the old guy with the gray beard and everything in the robes is welcome, and they just fated as these prophets, and said, yes, but look what you did. You started this whole culture of excellence,
Right.
right? Okay, it's the humor of it that's coming out, but I always thought that really stuck with me because it made me love the movie. For the rest, I don't care for that kind of mindless knuckleheadedness, right? But that's the part that I liked about the movie. It saved the movie for me a little bit. And it really was trying to show that despite them being jackasses and knuckleheads, they were good guys underneath.
Right.
And they were. And I know lots of guys like that. They were sweet guys, truly. At any rate, I feel that in the same way as translated into a culture, there could be in the future, hopefully, there'd be a societies based on appropriateness.
Yeah.
Because, excellence goes so far, and then appropriateness is still needed. Because excellent, you could pursue excellence and it can be inappropriate, so that it could cause a lot of problems pursuing excellence. Where do you stop, right?
Right.
The excellence has to be determined by appropriateness. So appropriateness supersedes excellence is my point. If you have appropriateness as your key for the culture, excellence is automatically part of the deal.
Yeah.
I mean, for instance, I bring in excellence to say, the people who are winning, I just second sucks and all this crap, and winning is everything. I say, no, it's not. Sorry, excellence is not winning, right? Excellent winning does not guarantee excellence, but if the pursuit of excellence does guarantee excellence. I mean, there's plenty winning without excellence.
Yep, it's true.
Yeah. So all your competitive sports, they end up with a winner, at least, except like in soccer they have draws, which I love.
Right.
Just because there's a winner in the game doesn't mean it was a good game. Was it an excellent game? No, it sucked. It was a terrible game. Everybody was slack, and they made mistakes, and they were unprepared. Blah blah blah. I can criticize the heck out of them.
That I've always found fascinating about it doesn't always work in every capacity, or with every sport where you do, what do you call it, where you do kind of tournament style, where like these two teams and then these two teams, whatever.
Ah,
um,
yeah.
it when you do it one-on-one, it's not so much, but like I remember when I was watching the Olympics this year, it really stuck out to me watching the running, and how you would have, I mean, it was just total, so much of somebody getting a medal.
Yeah.
I think running,
Yeah.
racing to me
Yeah.
is just like that. I
Yeah.
I don't think I could ever do it because of the
Yeah.
complete, I mean, if you trained that hard and everything to get
Right.
your medal or to win was dependent on these ridiculously unpredictable factors, and it
Exactly.
all,
Exactly.
what in the world? Uh-oh.
Check it out. Check it out. Anomalies, check it out.
It
Always.
sounds like something might be leaking. Is
Uh-oh.
interesting.
You know what? We were talking about it.
Yep.
You get an example.
It's gonna
You
be.
would get an example of application of what we were speaking about last time.
Oh man, this is for leftover from our
From the
roof
roof.
problems last year. Oh no.
Wow. Isn't it
Luckily,
fascinating? Erica, I am absolutely in awe and fascinated that we were speaking about this last time. We put so much attention and here it is. Sorry about that.
yeah, that is not good. Let's see. Do I have an old, here? I'm gonna use this.
Wait. I gotta do something important. Can you hear?
I can.
It's your theme music for moving around now.
Ah, very nice.
I just see you moving, and I'm like, the thought came into my head. My music was very soft; I couldn't hear it, so I didn't. Maybe subconsciously, I heard the music. It was just quite appropriate, actually. But
Yeah.
but I saw you moving, and then you were, the thing where the theme music came into my mind. Oh, where's the theme music? Oh, wait, let me turn it up, and it turned out to be a very
Ah,
appropriate.
nice. Well,
all right. So just before you go and deal with all of this,
yeah, I'm gonna have to
recap
figure out how to do that.
that for me, the key points here is that confidence is about choice, that we just decide. That's
Right,
it. There's no
right.
rhyme or reason, and we are doing stuff. It's kind of, there's an illogic to it in a way, and it's an assumption of something.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily have to be a logical good reason for it. Doesn't have to be supported. So in a sense, confidence is stepping into the dark and anticipating that the light will come on. Yes.
Right. Right.
And then also confidence is about the ability to self-motivate.
Yeah.
Right. You have to feel it. Otherwise your confidence is not really confidence. Yeah. That's the difference between real confidence and not. Now, real confidence thus is not necessarily predicated on experience or all of that stuff. Yes, that's important, but that's just the start of it. It's just to get you in a position where you can legitimately decide whether or not you wish to be or need to be confident, right?
Right.
That stuff already is sort of taken for granted, your abilities and all this. And we're not even going to go there when we're starting to define what determines confidence.
Right.
What really makes the difference with confidence is your ability to get into the mood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's it. That's the key criteria to it all, right? The other stuff is just, the basics. Yeah.
True.
It's really fascinating, is it not?
It's true.
Yeah. And, that ability to self-motivate and choose your mood, thus, it changes reality. So this point about confidence is a reality choosing circumstance, mindset, situation.
Right.
I want to ask next time, maybe go into it also, in terms of the people pleasing, and when people are being really, when they're being that harsh and they're being mean and negative and they're hostility, in other words, right? When there's that gross hostility.
Right.
I think you mentioned, and so did Bina, that you feel it so physically, and it's very, it discombobulates you, it throws you out because of the physical effect of it. Yes. Yeah. So now and here's something that I do suspect, that you may go into situations and, understanding confidence like this is not going to help much.
Right.
Right. So my point here is that the only way I feel this is going to actually be dealt with and remedied is through some sort of phobia training.
Oh, okay.
In other words, an incremental exposure so that you can, through that gradual interaction, you start to acclimatization. That's the word I'm looking for. That's why I'm stuttering. I'm looking for the word. And the only way to overcome that is through acclimatization.
Right.
Yeah, I feel so. I really do. I do suspect that if you were really caught by surprise a little bit and you said, well, I refuse, and you really kind of stick to your guns, you will feel it, but you'll get through it with a different mindset to before. Where you won't get to the end and be traumatized. You'll get to the end and say, well, okay, I felt it, but I got through it. But I got through it with a different attitude. And that will set you up for the next time. And so you start the ball rolling.
Right.
It's not the most ideal mechanism. The other thought I had on this, sorry, I really think about stuff a lot. When you share something that is of real importance to you, it sticks with me like crazy, by the way. Right?
Yes.
So that's why this keeps coming up for me. I do feel that potentially the hypnotism would be of great usage here.
You feel the what? Hypnotism would be useful?
Yes. In other words, that you can get hypnotized with that as a post-hypnotic suggestion, right?
Right.
So when somebody behaves in that way, it brings up whatever you've now asked Kathy to hypnotize you to say, you'll have to cure what you want, right? But the moment that kicks in, it brings up the hypnosis, the post-hypnotic that you put in there, and you start behaving in a way that's contrary to your normal way, because you now the post-hypnotic is coming through, right? So you have that come through. So I feel this would be a potentially very powerful way of dealing with stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that, in other words, when it comes, it doesn't trigger you in the fear and the upset and the internal, where everything goes out the window kind of a thing, right?
Right.
But it now triggers the post-hypnotic response, which is a different way of being. Which I think that's quite fascinating, because that's really what post-hypnotic suggestions are, or at least the whole process of a post-hypnosis.
Right.
It's a trigger.
Right.
So, but you're setting up that now this trigger is a different trigger for you.
Right.
You're changing the nature of what it triggers.
Yeah.
That's what post-hypnosis does, right? But to associate that as the trigger, I think this is very, very powerful.
Yeah, I agree.
So ask Kathy about this.
Okay.
Please. And see. Now, I really do feel you will have to be the one to script for her what she's going to have you say during the hypnosis session. She's going to tell you, okay, when somebody's behaving this way, then it's going to trigger this, and this will come up, right? You'll remember this, you'll feel this, etc.
I don't know that she really does that kind of hypnotic work. I mean, the stuff that we do is hypnotherapy, not necessarily like hypnosis.
No, yeah, she's got to understand the basic techniques of hypnotism if she's doing hypnotherapy.
I can certainly ask. It can't hurt to ask. So, okay, I'm sorry. I've got to jump off.
No problem. I was just about to say, no problem.
I've got to see if I can get a video of this for the roofers before it stops leaking. So.
All right, no worries. We'll talk to you again. So much exciting stuff, boy.
Yeah.
Feeling the power.
I like it.
Enjoy it all, Erica. Enjoy it all.
Thank you. You too.
I'll be thinking of you all day now.
Well, I appreciate it.
If that's a consolation or not, I don't know.
I like it. All right. Thank you, Phil. Bye.
Pleasure. You're in my heart and in my mind. Very cool stuff. Very cool. All right, stop recording.